Welcome to This Day in Scottish History. I'm your host, Colin MacDonald, and today we journey back to an event that shaped not only Scotland but the broader movement for women's equality in education. It's November 18th, 1870, and the Surgeons Hall Riot is about to take place. This dramatic moment in Edinburgh was a turning point in the fight for women to study and practice medicine. A struggle led by a group of extraordinary trailblazers known as the Edinburgh Seven. Let's set the scene. Imagine Victorian Edinburgh, a city bustling with progress and intellectual ferment, but one where certain doors remained firmly closed to women. Medicine, a prestigious profession, was considered a man's domain. In 1869, Sophia Jex-Blake, a determined and capable woman, sought to challenge this status quo. She applied to study medicine at the University of Edinburgh and fought for her admission to be approved. Her success was historic, and 6 other women soon joined her in becoming the first female medical students in Britain. Together, they would come to be known as the Edinburgh Seven. But their path was far from easy. From the moment they began their studies, the Edinburgh Seven faced hostility. Many male students viewed them as interlopers, and some faculty members openly opposed their presence. Day by day, they endured verbal abuse, intimidation, and outright harassment. Yet, despite this, they continued to attend classes, study, and excel academically. Their courage and determination were undeniable, but the opposition they faced would escalate to an appalling crescendo on this very day in 1870. The morning of November 18th was cold, and the women were making their way to Surgeons Hall to sit for an anatomy exam. They likely knew the exam itself would be challenging, but nothing could have prepared them for the scene that awaited them outside the hall. A mob had gathered, dozens of male students and several hundred onlookers, intent on intimidating and humiliating them. As the women approached the gates, the crowd grew louder, shouting insults and obscenities. Mud, refuse, and other debris were thrown at them. Some reports even suggest that animal waste was hurled in their direction. When they reached the entrance, the gates were slammed shut in their faces. Accounts differ on what happened next. Some say a sympathetic janitor opened the gates to let the women in, while others credit supportive male students. Regardless, the women eventually gained entry to the hall, battered but unyielding. Yet, even inside, their ordeal wasn't over. A live sheep, a pet of the college affectionately known as Poor Mealy, was deliberately released into the exam room to create chaos. Imagine the pandemonium, an already tense atmosphere disrupted by a frantic animal darting around the hall. Still, the women persevered. They completed the exam despite the distractions and hostility. Their strength and composure in such circumstances were remarkable, but the events of that day didn't end when the exam concluded. As they left the hall, the mob outside was still waiting. At this point, a group of male students known as the Irish Brigade stepped in to protect the women. They formed a protective barrier and escorted them away from the building. By the time they reached safety, the women were covered in mud, shaken and exhausted, but they had withstood the worst that their detractors could throw at them. The public reaction to the Surgeons Hall Riot was swift and significant. Newspapers across Scotland condemned the rioters. The Scotsman, a leading publication, denounced the behaviour of the mob as cowardly and degrading. Public opinion began to shift, with many rallying to the Edinburgh Seven's cause. The riot, intended to humiliate these women, instead shone a spotlight on their courage and the injustice they faced. Sophia Jex-Blake didn't let the matter rest. She publicly accused a male student, Mr. Craig, of being one of the instigators of the riot. This led to a libel case as Craig sued her for defamation. In court, Jex-Blake and her colleagues stood their ground, and while the verdict technically went in Craig's favour, the damages awarded were only a single farthing, a token amount that underscored the court's lack of sympathy for his case. The riot and its aftermath marked a turning point. Although the Edinburgh Seven would eventually leave the University of Edinburgh without completing their degrees due to systemic barriers, their struggle ignited a broader movement. Women across Britain and beyond were inspired by their bravery. Sophia Jex-Blake went on to earn her medical degree abroad and later returned to Britain to become one of the first female doctors in the United Kingdom. She also played a key role in establishing medical schools for women, ensuring that the next generation wouldn't face the same barriers. In time, the University of Edinburgh itself would change. Today, women make up a significant portion of the medical faculty, and the Edinburgh Seven are remembered as pioneers who helped pave the way for gender equality in education and beyond. In 2015, a historic Scotland plaque was unveiled at Surgeons Hall to commemorate the riot and honour these extraordinary women. As we reflect on the events of November 18th, 1870, we're reminded of the courage it takes to challenge entrenched norms and the resilience needed to persist in the face of adversity. The Edinburgh Seven didn't just fight for the right to study medicine, they fought for the principle that women deserved the same opportunities as men, a principle that continues to shape our world today. Thank you for joining me as we revisited this powerful chapter in Scottish history. I'm Colin MacDonald, and I hope you'll join me again tomorrow for another look at the stories that have shaped our past. Until then, haste ye back.